And then we can go from there as you know, if anyone else starts to filter in. So again, welcome everybody. My name is Ann Haig. I am the co-director of events for the Bluegrass chapter of the IIBA, and we'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedules today to join us. So in typical fashion, in the lead up to one of our study groups, in this case, it's the Product Ownership Analysis virtual study group, we typically have a certification chat with someone who is considered an expert in that area. So our upcoming study group takes place on Thursday evenings beginning September 8th and will run through October 6th. And today our guest speaker is Denise Sandford. So Denise currently serves as a product manager within the mortgage industry. She is recognized as a leader in her profession. She is also a decorated member of the community and holds several certifications, including a Certificate of Product Ownership Analysis from the IIBA. She's also a certified Scrum product owner and an IC Agile certified professional in Agile product ownership. So we welcome and thank Denise for leading today's chat. And we encourage each of you to take advantage of her expertise and ask questions in the chat or following the presentation. And when I turn the mic over to Denise, I'll let her, you know, provide her preference as far as raising hands, waiting until the end and things like that. So before I do turn the mic over, we do have a couple of housekeeping items. First, I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of our early bird pricing for IIBA members and also the special pricing for certification chat attendees. That does end on August the 19th, which is 2 weeks from today. So if you try and register for one of those sessions, it will ask you to provide a registration code. And the code for today's attendees will be provided in the chat. So be sure and keep an eye out for that as well. And next, we usually are asked about links to the recording for the session. And historically, attendees have received an email in the days following the chat. So I'm assuming that will be the case as well for this session. And just be sure and look for links and registration codes and things like that in the chat box throughout today's session. So that's all that I have for now. So I'm going to turn it over to Denise.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
So I am a very informal person. If you have questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand and we can bring you off of mute and ask your question. So we have a conversation going. Now, I am a certified, I have my certificate of product ownership analysis. I received that in late June of last year. Just to give you some background into what I've done historically is I've held roles as developer, as a business analyst throughout my career, but I found myself about 1.5 years ago managing an ad hoc group of product managers who were being asked to wear the hat of a product manager, a product owner, and in some cases, they were business analysts as well. And these individuals came from all across the organization and had different skill sets associated with their level of understanding for what needed to happen from a product ownership perspective, as well as guiding some just basic concepts of how you do analysis. So it was a very hodgepodge group of people. And I saw the certification come out and thought, wow, this is the perfect menagerie of all the skills that my people are being asked to portray on a daily basis. And so I saw the certification at that point in my career as really just a way for me to gather information to empower those people that worked for me. So when they first came out with the certification, the IIBA basically gave us a huge discount, an incentive to take the exam. And I believe it was if you took the exam by the end of June, then you would be refunded your certification fee. It was a phenomenal opportunity. And I found myself going, okay, so it's giving me a deadline, which is very important to set for yourself when you're going to get a certification. So there was a timeline associated with it. And the Bluegrass chapter was going to offer a study group. So I was like, I've got this, I can do this. So I took the class that we had the study group. I also signed up for the package of the courses, the course material offered through the IIBA. And I studied and sat for the exam on either the 29th or 30th of June, way to get it right in there under the deadline. So that happened and I passed. I was very excited. That was the first certification I had ever received in my professional career. From that, I have 2 additional certifications, and it was easy for me to get those 2 additional certifications because what we do at the IIBA really laid the foundation. So I had the basics, and going through and taking the courses was just, it was a breeze, and it was so easy to do. And, you know, we had COVID still going on, so I couldn't go a lot of places. And I just invested my time and money into certifications. So what I learned at the IIBA, getting back to the job I held as a manager, was extremely useful. I was able to empower my people with what I learned and teach them how they could be better analysts and better product owner analysts, since they were wearing so many hats. Also, I am happy to report that I kind of moved on from that role as a manager, as strange as that seems. I found myself missing the analysis so much that for me, I started exploring what my options were. Now, I told you I had been a business analyst. I was actually a technical business analyst, and I had been a developer. And I wanted to get onto the business side and look at product manager, product owner type roles. And so with that, I made the decision that I would change my career direction, move back out of management, and become an individual contributor again. So because I had this foundation and this certification, when I went into interviews from a product perspective, I was empowered with key terms that they use on the product side. They do value stream mapping, they do user story refinement, they map user stories, all things that you learn as techniques through the certification. I was able to interweave my interviews with that information and could prove to those people from a product perspective that I had the skill set that would be very important to them, to show them and to help be a benefit to the organization. So in November of last year, I switched jobs. I became a product manager for a large mortgage company, and I'm so excited about it. It really has been empowering to be back in the analyst role, even from a product manager perspective. We use Agile where I am, and we actually use Scrum Agile. And the POA certification embeds you into what Agile is. So if you need to get a foundation for Agile, if you've been in a waterfall environment, this certification sort of brings all the best parts together and shows that you're a well-rounded individual. So when I got my certification, what was the exam like? And how did I study? So my first thing is I am a visual learner. Visual and auditory is a secondary learning style for me. So the best way for me to do is to read, to really delve into the subject. And taking the certification study group really helped me to stay on track. I was able to read material. I was able to review questions, read questions, take sample exams. And then if I saw from the sample exam that there was an area that I was weak on, then I could go back and look at that section again. I would review it. And then I would once again go back and take the study questions again. So that was very helpful to me. The material that I got from the IIBA online, it was helpful as supplemental material, supplemental questions. I found that I spent more time in sample questions in that area of offering, but really taking notes was a great help to me as well, because from class, because I need to see it and write it, think it, and then I can memorize it, learn it, and retain it. So that was very important to me. Now, when you take the test, I did it online. It is a proctored exam. So you have to have a clean desk, nothing on the desk, and you have to take your computer and show your computer around the room so they can see you don't have any notes on the wall. I think I was allowed one piece of paper and a pencil. And I sat down and went through the questions. Now, when you take a study group with IIBA here for the Bluegrass, you get study suggestions on test taking as well at the end. Our instructors are really good about that. I've now sat in 2 different certifications, and that's always been in the study groups part of it. So what I did is you have 85 questions. I would go through the questions, answering the ones that were very readily in my mind, ones I didn't have to think or debate or reason through. And I would answer all of those. And I flagged the ones that I needed to think through. And I did those as a second pass. And I chose not to do a third pass, just from the sake of, I knew if I did a third pass, I would be doubting myself and questioning my answers, and more than likely missing more questions than I really wanted to in order to pass.
So how long did it take you to take the entire exam?
The entire exam only took me 45 minutes.
Wow, good job.
Thanks. I thought I had failed. I'll be honest. Wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I ended up passing and got the email, was ecstatic.
That's excellent.
Yeah, thanks. Stephanie?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Great information. I was just wondering if you needed to leverage any of the other IIBA certification information to help build upon what you had to understand in the CPOA exam.
I did not. I focused on the POA book that they have. And I also went through it. It contains all of the methodologies and tools in that book as well. Now, what I can tell you, as I said, that was my first certification. I'm now studying to take the Agile certification, and I'm finding that a lot of the information that I got in the POA is also relatable in the Agile one. So if you can afford it, and if it's the right deal for you, I highly suggest that you take those within a time span to make it you don't forget, so that you can end up with 2 certifications, and really the effort, it has not been that much more for AAC.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Thanks, Stephanie.
So how long did you actually spend in preparing for the exam prior to actually taking it?
That's a great question. I signed up to take the exam on 6/1, I believe it was. And I took the exam on the 29th or 30th. And I hold a full-time job at that point, working about 50 hours a week. So I would say if you include my study group session, I probably spent 25 to 30 hours
A week?
studying
Oh, total or a week?
total.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, so I mentioned some of the benefits that I found. I can tell you that the value far outweighs the cost. I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but right now the IIBA members pay $250 to sit for the exam. You have 1 year to take the exam. So if I paid my money today, I would have 365 days in order to take the exam. There's no recertification fees. Once you receive the certificate, you have the title. You just want to keep up your IIBA annual membership. Also, if you are not an IIBA member, the cost is about $400. Even at that, it almost pays you to become a member of IIBA, because even if you pay the membership fee plus the fee for the registration or the exam, you have got a little bit of room still that it's going to be cheaper that way. And you get all the additional benefits that you have from an IIBA member. There's a knowledge base, a website that has tons of information that only members have access to. And
So is
I
that,
find,
I'm sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
Kathy.
I was just going to say, so is that what they mean by the digital access?
Yes, that's
Mhm.
that's the digital access. It gets you into the knowledge base. It gets you access into webinars that only IIBA members have. You can see tons of recorded webinars that happened in the past. It's just a plethora of information, and I have found it to be invaluable as long as I've had my membership, and I forget how many years I've been a member now. So I really would encourage you to if you're a non-member and you're considering this certification, it would be worth your time to take that extra $139, I believe it is, in order to get the 1 year membership. Richard.
Oh yeah, hi. Was there any particular topic that stood out as being more challenging than the other?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, as funny as this sounds, being that I'm a product manager, I struggled with some of the product manager concepts that are within the test because I hadn't been exposed to it at that point. It was more business than I had been in quite some time. And so those were the chapters I had to study more when it talked about minimum viable product, that sort of thing.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try to talk.
Oh, geez.
The digital access is to learning modules from IIBA that Denise said. You can purchase those with the exam, which is the top line there. You can purchase the exam alone and not take the learning modules. but it is something you have to purchase. That makes sense, Kathy?
Yeah, that makes sense. I had just seen where it said CPOA bundle, digital access and exam, and I wondered what digital access meant, if that just meant, because I assume that we are able to download the book as long as we're IIBA members for free. So I just wondered what
Yes.
the extra stuff was, because I mean, I knew it must be something.
Yeah, this is one
Yeah.
course or one certification that IIBA has created, learning modules. And I think the business data analytics is the other one, or cybersecurity, one of the two. So it's an additional thing that you can purchase from IIBA, and it's just a walkthrough of digital, basically a digital access to the guidebook.
Sorry about that, Kathy. I thought you were referring to the knowledge base.
Well, yeah, no, I get that. I mean, it's a fine line, right?
Right. Right. Now, I did purchase this bundle when I took mine. If I were to take it a second time, I don't know that I would do both the study group and the online material. I think I gained more from the study group than the online material. The online material I really was using for study questions at the height of my studying. It was more of look at the questions, take the practice exams until I got the information down.
Okay, thank you.
Is it Jorge? Mr. Bryson?
Yes. Hi, Denise. Hi, Aaron. Thanks a lot, Denise, for putting on the session. And sorry to hear your voices out, Aaron. 3 questions for you, Denise. I'd like you to contrast the CSPO with the CPOA in terms of certification, the type of exams they are, and maybe the value with the CSPOA versus the CPOA. My second question is concerning the digital access in the exam questions. The questions are multi-select, like they're multiple choice, but you can multi-select. Is that the same way in the exam? Some of our members here up in the Montreal chapter were asking that question. And the third question is concerning your study group. Will your study group be conducted virtually this year in September? We have some members from our Montreal chapter that might be interested in joining.
All of our study groups have been virtual since what, 2018, I think. So
Great.
yeah, it'll definitely be virtual.
Okay.
We have people attending them from other countries and things like that, sometimes out of the time zone. Yeah.
So I'll answer the first question about the CSPA. I forget what letters are after my name. For the certified product owner that I have from Scrum Alliance, that one is much more in here are the steps that happen in Scrum, and understanding of first what Agile is, then what Scrum is as part of Agile. And here are the steps that you take when you are in the middle of doing a project and using Scrum. So they spend a lot of time talking about building out, having daily stand-ups, having retrospectives, those sorts of things in a very rigorous fashion. What I find with the POA certification that the IIBA has is it is much more about the theories in enabling you, empowering you with the tools. So they talk about under each one of the horizons, how the product owner analysis fits into it. And that's also very different from my Scrum Alliance certification, because they do not focus on anything at the strategy or at the initiative phase. It's all at delivery. You get more well-rounded with the CPOA, I believe. And you also get much more of a toolkit to use with the CPOA versus the Scrum Alliance certification. To answer your question?
Great. Yep. Yep. Definitely sounds much richer. The CPOA sounds much richer, much more complete than the CSPO. So thanks for that information. Concerning the digital access, the questions on the exam versus the questions in the digital access package, the multi-select, do they do multi-select questions in the final exam, in the CPOA exam?
I think if they had a multi-select question, it was in the fashion of option C would have all the choices that you would take. It wasn't like in the digital material where you had to know to pick option 1, 3, and 5, and not options 2 and 4, if I remember correctly. They would have all of the answers with the nuances as individual rows. So you would choose one answer.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Denise, and hope you get better, Aaron.
Thank you. Now, what I haven't really talked about is really the value that the IIBA certification gave me. I thought about this for a very long time, and what I can tell you is it gave me confidence more than anything else. As I mentioned, I never had a certification, and this came about, and I'm like, it's given me a timeline. It's given me all the pieces I need to obtain a goal. So what's the worst that can happen? I'm not going to pass the test. So I took the exam and I passed. And then the next thing you know, I'm getting another certification and another certification. And then I'm signing up for more certifications now. So for me, it was the self-esteem aspect. 2, as I mentioned, I did kind of change my career direction. And when I changed my career direction, it gave me a leg above on the competition because I had a certification. And so I had proven that I knew a subject. That is also a difference with my Scrum Alliance certification. I just had to sit in a class in order to get that certification. I didn't have to take an exam and prove that I knew the information. So that's another benefit to that, to the IIBA certification. Also, I was part of what I think the media calls it the mass resignation. I was one of those people, and I was able to get a pay increase from my from having my certifications. So that was a benefit. Secondary to me, but obviously important. And third, I can walk into a room at a new company and I can carry on a conversation with them about product ownership analysis, because I've taken the certification. So do we have any other questions?
I have a question, and this may not be the right forum for it, and if not, perhaps we can talk separately. But from your perspective and your experience, how does the role of the product owner differ from a traditional product manager, which was more of a marketing type of position?
I think it depends on the company you're at and the organization. what I have experienced with the product owner has a tendency to be more technical.
Mm-hmm.
They're more engaged at the delivery horizon, whereas the product manager focuses part of their time at the strategy and initiative levels,
Mm-hmm.
more so than what the product owner does.
Okay.
Product owner really manages the backlog
All right.
and stays with the delivery.
Okay. And we're in a situation where we're really more of a waterfall environment. We're actually in search for a new product suite that we would implement, and the implementation then would become kind of a hybrid of waterfall and agile. And I think that's where it sounds like that's where the product owner would really be in the forefront, is in that implementation.
So you're wanting to take waterfall and convert it into agile?
Well, we would implement in stages. And if there are additional features and functionality that are needed beyond what we actually acquire from the vendor, then we would be developing those in-house. So that's, I think, where more of the agile process might come in.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you would also need a scrum master
Yep.
to drive the team itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then have your product owner taking care of the backlog of requirements for you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
I have a quick question. This is Kathy again. At this time, this particular exam is only available in an online proctored environment, correct?
I believe that's true. And
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. So it's only, I guess it's only one or two of the core certifications that you can actually go to a testing center to do. So one of the things that that George Bridges said about that is that he said it's your opportunity to totally remodel one of the rooms in your house.
That's a good way to put it. I
Yeah.
can't take it right now. My desk in my office here is pretty cluttered. It's definitely not clean.
Okay, so if we wanted to go forward with this, then we really need to purchase the exam from the IIBA. If we wanted to be in the study group with the Bluegrass, then we would contact someone at the Bluegrass chapter for that piece of the pie.
Well, actually, there's a link in the chat window that you can click on that will take you to the page
Okay.
where you can sign up for that if you want to. Yeah.
And the discount code.
Oh, yeah. And you make sure you use the discount code. Yeah. And that's in the chat window also.
That's in it.
Richard.
Yeah, how many people do you expect to have in the study group?
We don't know. We had 9 last year. So
Okay.
however many signs up.
Sure. Yeah.
We certainly have room for more than 9. So
Okay.
if you're interested,
Yep.
get in there. Get your discount.
Thank you.
And I think, as Aaron mentioned earlier, the discount expires when the early bird pricing expires.
And that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So on the 19th.
All right, anyone else have a question? You've been a great group.
Yeah, thank you to everybody that asked questions. They were all excellent, relevant questions, and thank you to those that participated in the feedback, both in the chat and the live session. We appreciate the interactive nature of these discussions and hope that you found the content valuable. As discussed earlier, I believe there will be an email going out that will provide a link to this chat session if there's anything you want to go back and review. And again, the certification chat code is in the chat message for the registration, as well as the link to both our YouTube channel and to the study group coming up next month.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you said we'll get a copy of what was in the chat window, or
The link.
Yes.
a
We'll
link
put
to
a
it?
link of that in your email you will
Okay.
get tomorrow.
All right, great.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being
Great.
here.
Yeah, this has
Thanks
been
very
really
much.
valuable.
Yeah, great presentation,
thank
Denise.
you.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Thanks, Ann.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Denise.
Denise. Thanks, Aaron.
All right.